Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The Road to Grandmaster Series. This is my third tournament back in action, and as I've been saying for the first 5 rounds, I am still in Italy, still in the same place, and I have 3.5 points out of 5. I won the fifth round. It was a very tense game, very complicated game. Wasn't a perfect game, I should say, but I have 2 wins and 3 draws, and if I win the sixth round, I'm right back up there. And so with 3.5 points out of 5, in most tournaments, you're going to play somebody your strength or higher. It's a lot of points. But in the fifth round, I was paired against a man from India with a rating of 2,198. Now, when I saw that, the traditional chess stereotype for playing an Indian in a tournament is you're playing a child. You're playing an underrated kid. This happened to me in the Czech Republic. I played an 11-year-old. This guy was 27. He was my age. I'm 28. So I looked at his rating chart, and when I started preparing for him, I realized that he had almost no games. And not only did he have no games, this gentleman was never above 2,000 until last month. He came to Europe, and in July, he gained 200 rating points. And I was like, I'm in danger. Now, obviously, this is a common phenomenon because there are, just like the story of Pang Bo, there are many players out there who just don't really play that many FIDE tournaments. And obviously, the skill level is capped at some point. So I went into this game thinking, and after looking at his openings, thinking, okay, he's probably around 2250, 2350 strength, somewhere in that range. Let's keep the position closed. Let's outmaneuver him. But kind of a fascinating, like whenever you play somebody from India, somebody from China, Kazakhstan, some of these places, like you actually don't always have a full grasp of how good or bad they are because you don't have the same amount of information that you do with, let's say, some other people who have like hundreds of games in the database. Now, all I knew about Nikhil M, he's probably from the same region of India as Gukesh because Gukesh's name also generally has one letter, Gukesh D. All I knew about Nikhil is that he was probably going to play d4, and I predicted before the game that he would play the Catalan. So he played d4, I played d5, he played knight f3. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I don't know why he wouldn't start with this. Maybe he didn't want to play Queen's Gambit accepted, but we're still going to maybe play Queen's Gambit accepted. And then he went here. This move is designed to stop black from playing a certain move order in the Catalan. So right now there is this move order in the Catalan, bishop to b4 check. It's probably the best move. Also, you can take on c4 very quickly, like as early as the fourth move. And so you play like this with white because you want to force black into this Catalan where the bishop never went to b4 and the pawn never took on c4. It is very clever. The drawback is black can change the game completely and not play a Catalan at all. And that's what I did. So I sat at the board, I thought for a few minutes, and I thought, okay, I mean, if he wants to give me this option not to enter the Catalan, which clearly he wants to play the Catalan, I will play bishop g4. And the nice thing about the move bishop g4 is I prepared it for a previous tournament. So it's nice when your prep stacks up. Like sometimes you prepare things. This is me speaking. I'm not speaking on behalf of like other titled players or whatever, but if I don't have a chance to use my prep in one of my games, I'm going to maybe be able to use it at a later moment. So he played bishop g2. There's a whole bunch of meta, of how to target this bishop. In many ways, it's actually a Trompowsky. So I played d4 and brought my bishop. So it's kind of a Trompowsky, but from the other side. White is going to try to play c4 and put pressure over here. I'm going to play c6. And now I just, I got my bishop out. Now, around here, around here, I had some vague theoretical knowledge. Like, I knew that the best move in some positions is just to throw this in, because I can either give up the bishop or I can run away, but then he can always target my bishop. There's some complicated lines. The knight can always go to e5, hitting the bishop. The queen can go to b3, and then I would play queen b6, or queen c8 is also very solid. He thought here for 7.5 minutes, and he played this. And right away, I got confident. So again, I saw who I'm playing. Obviously, he's underrated. I have no idea how good or bad Nikhil is because there's not that much data on him. And in the last, month, he gained 200 rating points, but I didn't think he's going to get another 200 rating points. So it's a little bit weird. Like, I don't have a gauge, but this move gave me some info. And I thought, okay, it's a solid move, but it's not the best. Like, he didn't play a confrontational move, putting me under pressure. Here, I was very happy with how I handled the next few moves. First of all, here, I can just autopilot castling, but the best move, and the move that I found in the game, is h6. It's actually worth investing this move because now he cannot get my bishop. My bishop now makes a getaway to h7 from where it's also very powerful. It sees the entire board, in fact, and it fights against his center pawn advance. So I was very happy to have understood that at this moment, I can play the move h6. Now here he played rook e1, and his idea was to play e4. Again, I can sort of autopilot this. I can go here, e4, I can trade everything. I can also probably castle and even let him play e5, and this is still probably totally fine. But then I realized, wait a minute, why don't I go here? This move stops e4, and now that I played h6, I can always go to h7, so him chasing me doesn't really work. Now, you may wonder, why would I go bishop g4 and then bishop f5? Yeah, in fact, we actually, watch this. This is kind of magical. Imagine the game went like this. d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, g3, okay? Bishop f5. So I just went straight away to bishop f5. For white to take advantage of this, he needs to play c4, queen b3, but imagine white plays exactly as he did in the game. Castles, bishop e7, c4, c6. Now white here gets rook e1, I play h6, and now white gets 2 moves in a row. What move would white play here? He would play knight c3, obviously, and he probably would not play rook e1. He would probably need to play queen b3. But in the game, this is what happened, and now it's white's move. So what's funny is, even though technically I played in a way where I gave him 2 moves in a row because I went bishop g4, bishop f5, his setup is bad. He took the wrong setup of the pieces, and he's not able to take advantage. And so, I'm pretty confident. I mean, he played very solidly. He played in a very non-confrontational way, which made me quite confident. And then he played, b3, which, like he's just trying to go here. So I castled, he went bishop b2, and now a very common way to attack a structure like this and like this, these kind of 3 pawns together, is to play a5. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time, and the idea was quite simply like, I want to actually play a4, and this is nice for me. I create some weaknesses, I can immediately go collect them. So here, knight d7, I anticipated the next series of moves. Like up until this point, I was playing very well, and I had a feeling he was going to go knight e5. Otherwise, I don't really know what he's going to do. Like, he doesn't have an easy plan. I mean, his pieces are out, but they're not really doing anything special. So he went knight e5, and I thought about keeping the tension here, but I very quickly calculated something, which was just, I mean, again, I can like back up with my bishop and just wait and leave the knight here. But I took, and then I went here. And in this position, I understood that the best thing for him to do was to open up this bishop by trading here, at which point I can take with the e or c pawn. I was probably going to take with the e pawn. And if he played e4, I would have taken. It would have been pretty complicated. I was thinking maybe he could play f4 and then play e4, but that might be a little bit too risky. But this move is a mistake. And I knew it was a mistake. And my plan here after takes, knight takes, was to simply enter this position where my bishops are just better than his. My bishops stare directly into space and targets. His bishops stare into nothing. So I'm just like comfortably better here. And the other idea was that if he takes with the bishop, it was still to play knight c5, accepting the damage to my structure and then pressuring him from there. So here, full of confidence. I'm clearly seeing that my opponent is playing too solidly, and there is no level of intimidation, of mystery, or whatever. I'm just sort of like, he didn't get anything from the opening, right? And he spent 20 minutes taking my bishop, which is kind of a wild move because I didn't really know what else he could even do. Like, I have no idea what he was calculating. Maybe he was calculating what he was going to do after he took, but I mean, I have no idea what else he could have possibly been considering, because I just thought I'm gonna, if he plays rook e3, at a minimum I can take the bishop. Like, I don't know, so he spent 20 minutes and I was, and takes. And so from this point forward, the position changes, right? And it's the second game of the day, and I have spent most of this tournament playing more slowly than my opponents. So I start making a few mental notes here, like, okay, so this is a really weak square, and knight d3 looks nice, but I don't think knight d3 does much. For example, he played bishop c3, so, right, it's no longer a fork. So now knight d3 is nothing special. I mean, he will play rook e2, maybe even rook e3, maybe even rook f1, although that's extremely passive. The knight here doesn't do anything. Then I thought about, okay, what about queen d3? Well, queen d3 now doesn't work because he's going to play rook e3. But that doesn't make any sense. So then I thought, okay, what about like queen d7, and maybe I'm gonna, get in another way. Like maybe I'm gonna bring in my rook. Well, the line here that the computer wants to play is, I thought he would play queen c2, right? And then I thought I would play rook d8, and he would play rook d1. And the reason I didn't like this was because I wanted my bishop to see this pawn, right? I didn't want to let his rook come here. What the computer finds here is this idea pawn to f4, which admittedly, I have to tell you, I mean, I saw that I could play the move pawn to f4, but I didn't really appreciate how strong it is. He can't really take because it opens up the king, and if he doesn't take, the pawn is just kind of a menace. And like my queen will go to h3, and he's under some pretty nasty pressure. But I just didn't seriously consider that my queen was going to be leading the charge here in conjunction with the move f4. Instead, what I decided is, well, I'm going to control him, right? And I thought of a very simple structure. My knight will come to e6, my pawn will go to g6 to protect f5, my queen and bishop will come out this way, my rook will go to d8. I found an optimal square for all of my pieces. And the reason I played this move pretty quickly was because I thought, well, he can't develop his queen side now. Like, he's not going to be able to move his rook. So he played queen c2, I played g6, he played knight f3, right? A couple of easy moves. Now's the critical moment of the game. I mean, technically the critical moment of the game was before I went here. And to be honest, in retrospect, maybe I should have more seriously considered utilization of the d3 square. But once I realized that my knight had no purpose there, I didn't think my knight stood here very nicely because I wanted my bishop to see the pawn. But I guess the bishop seeing the pawn is not important, and what's more important is playing actively with my queen, bringing my rook to the center. But I played, I went for this setup. And so here I played queen b6 because I thought it made sense. Targeting this pawn, putting a rook on the d file, king g7 to support my pawns. I just thought my pieces have such natural squares. Like, they're standing so much more comfortably than his. Here he played bishop d2. And again, this is where, like, I didn't spend much time here on king g7. I thought about king h7 or king g7. So king h7, I didn't play. First of all, a bit superficially, there's like a queen on the opposite side. It was maybe, h4, whatever. But also king g7, I actually was thinking maybe in the future I can use my h-pawn as an attacking mechanism. Like, for example, I mean, if he lets me get 5 moves in a row, I mean, I actually kind of like this idea to actually same side attack him, with my h-pawn. So I played king g7. And then he went here. And so I saw this idea, bishop 2e3, right? And I didn't quite understand how annoying it was until it was on the board. So he attacks my queen. The move that I would play in a blitz game here without even thinking is bishop c5. Because you don't want to move your queen, like you don't want to acknowledge that this is even a threat. So bishop c5. The reason I didn't play bishop c5 is I simply thought he could play, for example, queen d2, like let's say rook h8, which is not necessary. It's not the best move. And something like here, queen c5, queen e3, or queen c3. Why can't he go queen e3? Oh, it's just bad. But okay, let's say queen c3. And I didn't see the next move. I mean, I saw that I could trade the bishops, but I didn't see how to break through. If I play rook d8, he can already start considering even b4. And now he no longer has a weakness. So once I realized I couldn't really trade, another thing I thought of here was c5. And I somehow felt this was a really big transformation of the position because I'm completely giving up d5. And I was really worried a rook would land on d5. And I did not know how to get rid of it at all. I mean, I know I have knight c7, but by the way, just as a side note, knight c7 is like not even a guarantee because he can even give up the rook. I mean, he can even do this. So I saw c5, which doesn't let him go b4, helps me with a4, maybe queen c6, but even I thought like, I mean, this looks horrendous, but the queen side gets locked. I don't know, I didn't. So yeah, the engine like c5, I'm not so sure about c5. So what did I do? I did the Gotham. I thought for 14.5 minutes, and I came up with a bad plan. I overthought the position, and you know, I hate to say I did the Gotham, but that is one of my weakest things. I mean, what I should have done here is I should have kept playing the game. I should have just went bishop c5. I mean, maybe my coach disagrees. Maybe he thinks c5 is totally worth exploring. I mean, even I can play queen c7. Like, I can just regroup, you know? I can regroup. And yeah, obviously, you feel a little stupid here because you lost some time. So I went queen a6. And this gets a question mark, but during the game, I calculated something. I calculated, well, the natural follow-up to bishop e3, what I evaluated my opponent's plan was to play queen d2. I would play rook h8, and then he would play knight d4. So this is what I thought he was going for. And then I was going to play rook d8, and something like this, you know, queen e2, and I thought the game goes on. And maybe I'm going to play a4 in the future. And obviously the whole point is I want to play these two moves. That's why I played queen a6. He then played h4. Now, it's considered a miss, but like, again, I spent 15 minutes and this move did not even cross my mind. And stuff like that makes you feel a bit stupid. So now I said, okay, clearly we are not aligned, and clearly I'm not evaluating the position well. I'm playing my 7th and 8th hour of chess. Let's play quickly. Let's try to shut down what he wants. I thought he wanted h5. In this position, I wanted to play a4, but I was a little bit concerned here with the move h5. I really didn't like it. For example, let's say take. Now, obviously, I shouldn't take because I weaken my position. I also shouldn't go g5 because I weaken f5. So I don't know, let's say here, and I just like somehow really felt something was wrong here. So I played h5, and I mean, I took a look at his bishop coming here, but I didn't think it was that great, but apparently it's actually quite strong. And then he played c5. Suddenly I started realizing, oh, I'm not in charge anymore. I mean, I felt in charge. You know, the movie scene, Bane, do you feel in charge? We paid you a small fortune. I was like, oh, great. Oh, this doesn't work anymore. And if I play a4, he goes b4, he's just better. So, okay, we've entered a new phase of the game. I mean, I knew right away. Like, so, okay, I have to make moves, right? I'm not happy with what's going on in the game. Rook d8. He played rook d1. I thought here, like, worst comes to worst, I can go for all these trades, but I have to say, I mean, only white is better here. Which is kind of crazy because, you know, you would think he has 6 out of 7 pawns on the wrong color. They're on the right color of the bishop, and all of my pawns are on the opposite, which you would think might benefit me. Yeah, I have some dark square weaknesses, but they're covered. But he just has more space. He has more space and some infiltration points. And so, you know, I thought, okay, look, I'm going to keep the game going. Because again, I'm thinking, I'm probably stronger than my opponent. I don't think that's like unfair to say. 2370, 2198. Again, intimidation was not really a factor here, despite the mystery. I was just thinking, I'm going to keep the tension. Like, if I want to be a GM, I have to be able to outplay my opponent here with 25 minutes on the clock. I mean, even if the position is... So I played rook d5. I want to double. He traded, and he played rook d1, and I just simply played rook d8. I could have played queen c6, but I wasn't rushing with the queen because if I go here, he goes here, and I cannot take the pawn because this is a check, which I really lamented during the game, actually. I really wished I had put my king somewhere else so that this was not a problem ever. But I played rook d8, and here I thought he started going a bit wrong. So the move king g2 felt slow. It did not feel like it met the demands of the position, which I thought were on this side of the board. But I guess, you know, he played king g2 because he wanted to go queen c3, and this is a fork. Except... What? Oh, bishop h6! Nice. So at this point, things can become a draw pretty quickly. If I take on c5, and he goes here, and I play rook c8, and he plays like rook d5, and I play like b6, rook d6, queen here or something, and I take the bishop, and probably it's going to be a draw. But again, I'm trying to keep the tension, so I played king f8. Actually, again, I thought king f8 was very clever, because the point is I'm going to step out of a bunch of attacks, and I might even go to e8. So I'm going to get out of bishop h6. I'm going to be over here. It looks a little bit counterintuitive, but I'm preparing for the endgame, and in the endgame, my king should be near his pawns. So I thought king f8 was actually quite a smart move. He went queen c3. And here I sort of panicked. I panicked because I thought if I just continue walking, after like b4, take, I had no idea what my next move was. And yeah, I mean, the one idea I have here is trading the queens, but I thought this is just an immediate draw, like rook d3, rook c1, I don't know. I mean, I can play rook d3, even knight d2 or whatever, like rook c4, rook a3, maybe even b5. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's ways like the pawns are getting through, and I mean, it's just a draw. So once I saw that, you know, he's trying to play b4, I thought, well, this is my last chance. I mean, this is my last chance to maybe complicate the matters. And I tried in a flawed way, which was d4, which we actually discussed after the game we thought was a good move. Knight d4 and knight c5. What I had missed here was he can play e6, which I saw, f6, b4, right? And if I take the pawn, which I thought was just free, he plays queen b3. And the point is really brutal. He's attacking my knight, and if I go here, he mates me, basically. He like gets in with his queen, then he takes with the rook. And if I defend myself with king f7, he just like takes on a5, and I'm in an eternal pin. I just can't move at all. Yeah, I thought this just doesn't work. And what's funny is that even a moment later, he played e6, and I thought, oh, that's it. You know, I succeeded. Maybe here I could have also played king e8, but I was a little bit worried about bishop g7, which is a ridiculous looking move. What? What? I just missed knight e6. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, wow. That's just, yeah, I mean, I literally didn't go here because I thought he... Okay, well, that's just really bad. Maybe I thought queen c4 and bishop g7, I don't know. I'm already forgetting at this point. So I thought, okay, the epicenter of the attack is here, so I should avoid it. And then he went back. And here, disaster struck. So I wanted to bring my queen back into the game, right? I didn't really know what to play here. One of the moves I considered here was rook d5 to centralize my rook and then play queen d8. Apparently it's losing due to b4. Another move that I considered here was queen c7. But he can play queen c4, I guess, and I'm in a very, stuck position. So what I decided was I need to get my queen to d5. And I can do that because I can play queen d6. And it looks like there he has a really cool tactic. He can play knight takes f5. And knight takes f5 is brutal because if I take his rook, he takes my bishop, he takes my knight. But I was like, oh, he can't play knight takes f5 because I play queen c6 check. I check his king. I threaten to take his rook. Here's what I missed. Played queen d6. He played this. My heart sank into my stomach. I had missed that after queen c6 check, king h2, I can't take the rook because this is a fork. And I can't take the knight because he goes take, and he wins my knight. Everything works. So I quickly calculated it. I miscalculated, and it's fatal. Nearly fatal. Because the endgame, I might still be able to hold. He didn't play bishop c5 because I think he was a bit worried about bishop e7, which is a well-timed move. So instead of that, he played queen c5, and I thought, wait a minute, boys and girls. This position sucks. My pawn structure is horrendous. But maybe I don't have to lose. Maybe I don't have to lose. But of course, I knew it was going to be a very tall task. My pawns here are going to get frozen on the same color as my bishop. Like, he starts attacking them, right? He forces me to do this, which is really unpleasant because now my bishop has to stay guarding those pawns. His idea on the other side of the board is to trade and make an outside pass pawn, which is also extremely unpleasant. And he starts playing moves like queen d3. Now here I just start shuffling. I probably should have played a bit faster here, but I got us both down to about 4 minutes. And, you know, it's instructive here that this endgame is probably a draw. But I was quite a bit concerned about, like, for example, him getting an outside pass pawn and pushing it. And this is losing for me. But there's a defensive idea there, which is really nasty. The defensive idea is that I sack the f-pawn. That, and not only that, I can even trade and I win. I'm up a pawn, I'm down a pawn, but his king is walled out. So I had to think really creatively here on how to defend this position. And yeah, I could have traded and then brought my king and played for bishop c7 and f4. But I didn't. Then I thought I tricked him. I thought I was getting in. And, you know, here, I was like, oh, we're trading the queens, but now we're doing it on my terms. Now I've undoubled my pawns. So this is an improvement. I'm going to go king e6, f5. Like, I'm going to make a draw, you know, like king f1, king e6, king e2, f5. Like, that's it. I'm holding. I did it. I can't believe it. And this move really shocked me because when I went for the queen trade, I simply looked at take f5 and I forgot he has this. So it was a series of making mistakes and miscalculations, but still I thought I have drawing chances. And I do. But just one. So at this point, in my mind, I thought, okay, like, I'm under a lot of pressure, but he still has to find a way to win. And he went g4, take, f5, and king back. And so here I thought he's going to try to push his pawn. He's going to try to run over here and win my pawns. But I have my f-pawn. But I missed that his winning idea is to run his king, then push the pawn, give up the pawn, win my pawn, and because his king is here, mine is there, he will go back and win the other pawns. And I had failed to realize here, I can simply take. I can simply take. It registered in my head that bishop and pawn on the wrong color of the bishop is a draw. But I only looked at, I only looked at, like, running my king and trying to win his pawns. I didn't realize I can go here and here. And I just play here. And that's it. And I force him to have an outside pass pawn. So take b5, take, bishop d2. He doesn't let me get close. a4. b4. Maybe I'll even win if he lets me. And of this entire game, that is the one that hurts the most because I'm quite shocked. I mean, I had 4 minutes. I should have spent a bit more time here, and I don't think he saw it either, actually. I don't think he realized this defensive concept. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have gone here. The funniest part is he goes here. So I have it again. I can play f4. I can deflect the bishop and then do it anyway. I can do it even losing. I mean, yeah, if I didn't see it once, I'm obviously not going to see it again. I thought I was playing for, and if he takes with the king, I win his h-pawn. And then he wins this, but I go here. This is a draw because he's not going to be able to break through. Yeah, bishop h4 really sucks. That one really sucks. And now he does exactly what I said. He pushes the h-pawn. And he gives it up. He takes on f5. He runs to the other side of the board. He wins my other pawn. And I lost. And, you know, in previous editions of my tournaments, you know, I get like really negative on myself. I get very upset when I lose. And the only really upsetting thing about this game was not playing bishop takes h4. But the thing is, I didn't even realize, like, I sat down at my computer to do this recap, and I saw bishop takes h4 and was aghast that I didn't even seriously consider that move. Yeah, maybe I was mentally checked out. Maybe it was fatigue. But for me, you know, the instructive moments of this game and how to actually become a grandmaster are from this position. Like a 2450, 2500 rated player finds a way here. Finds the way to make the improvements, doesn't just lazily retreat the knight, doesn't just superficially look at playing knight to d3. And that's really where I can make my improvements. I want to avoid positions that are getting out of control, like this. So for me, that is the most instructive. And later in the game, you know, yeah, bishop takes h4, that's sort of one of those miracle defensive resources that I feel like in some of my previous tournaments have gone my way. You know, in this recent Road to GM kind of like resurgence, I've gotten lucky in a few games, you know, and you earn your luck in chess. But yeah, I haven't had much luck in this tournament. I mean, in the 5th round, yeah, there was this one move. But yeah, I mean, this is another one of those games where you had like one chance and that's it. So I'm pretty positive. I'm nowhere near as negative as I was in previous editions of the journey. This is only my 2nd loss in 24 games. You know, and I had a better position from the opening. Now it's about just capitalizing and just becoming a better player and calculating better. Just calculating better, calculating deeper. And life goes on. This guy, Nikhil, beat 2 IMs yesterday. He beat me and he beat a guy from, I think, Slovenia, 2370. So, like, dude is going to be 2300 plus, probably by the end of August. It's crazy. Like, in the 7th round, I'm playing an Albanian, rated 2230, 20-year-old guy. Look forward to covering that game for all of you. It sucks, but the first 2 tournaments in Madrid and New York set really high expectations, and I'm telling y'all right now, there will be more losses ahead. So, you know how it goes. Get out of here.